what's up?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the program.
The Airtime Podcast is presented by Van Shoes since 1966. 66!
There's nothing fake about it. Have something to believe in and be yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for supporting the show, whether that's sharing it on Facebook, Instagram, just sending me a DM and saying you enjoy the episodes. It means a lot. If you have some free time, which I know you do, you can leave me a 5-star review. It goes a long way and it's greatly appreciated. Today's guest, Benny Urban, all the way from Germany. His tricks, the spots he rides, the kits he wears, it's all thought out, and I enjoy this homie's footage. Every time it's put out, I just can't wait to watch it. Has he been to Oktoberfest? Yes. Did I talk about it? No. Am I sorry? Yes. So let's just get that out of the way, because who wouldn't want to know some more details on Oktoberfest? I mean, I know I would. I love crushing beers with my friends and stuff, or just drinking beers. Love beers. Getting his real opportunity with Ice and 7, an iconic film crew in Europe, which kind of gave a lot of European riders their foot in the door to that whole global market. Benny, the second longest rider on Nitro, except for Aero Edela, who's been on them since birth, apparently. His sponsorship with 32 led him to a bunch of crazy opportunities like riding and meeting Joe Sexton and JP Walker and Justin Meyer, which would give him his opportunity to film for Videograss's Visitors, which he absolutely crushed. There's a front blunt 270 in that part that's mind-melting. Benny would eventually leave 32 for Vans, and then he would get his opportunity of a lifetime to film for the X Games, which, after an exhausting 2 months, he came up with a silver after 50-50ing, as Spencer Schubert would say, Iron Man's dick. We talk about that more, so, watch the video, you'll get it. Benny can be seen now in new Vans projects such as Evergreen, skateboarding, making short films on his Super 8, building snowboard parks, yes, building them, I'm welding that shit together, hanging out at Oktoberfest and stuff, and smiling. Man, this guy is always smiling. He's a happy dude. He's the modern day Chris Duffy. I'm not sure if it's the Red Bulls or what, but I mean, this kid puts me in a good mood every time I see him. Thanks for coming on the show. Enjoy. All right, big shout outs to our sponsor Vans, simply the best snowboard boots in the world. Our guest today, Benny Urban, rides for Vans. Let's get a little insight as to what he's wearing.
Yo, what's up? This is Benny Urban, and I have been riding the Vans High Country and Hellbound snowboard boot all winter. It's Sam Taxwood's new pro model, and I would highly recommend to check it out. The fit and flex are super nice, so yeah, absolutely love it. Go check them out.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got Benny Urban on the podcast. What's up, boss?
What's good? Good to see you. Thanks for having me, Jody.
Thank you for coming on.
Cool.
Big fan.
Thank you, sir. Likewise.
All right, so quick though, we'll get right into what everybody's thinking. Benny Urban. What's your real name? Because that's just way too cool. You know what I mean? Benny is like the sickest name, and then you just so happen to have Urban, and that's just what you happen to be amazing at. Like, is there a longer? Are we missing some German words that are attached to that, or is that it?
Honestly, I wish I could tell you a really long, interesting, funny story about it, or that it would be an artist name or anything like it, but it's actually my full name. And the background is actually from Poland, because I think my ancestors, my grandfather, he was born in Danzig, which is now Poland and used to be Germany. So that's from his side. This last name is from his side. So I think it's somewhere from Poland or even more east, as at
No
least
way.
that's what I'm aware of.
What about Benny? Is Benny abbreviated for anything?
Benny's just Benjamin, short for Ben.
Oh, I knew it. It was Benjamin. Benjamin's sick, dude. That's an original name.
Thank
That's a
you.
classic. That's like a John, you know what I mean? Short for Jonathan, but you know what I mean.
I think my parents, they just wanted to have a first name that works in every culture or every country. I guess that's what they told
Totally.
me.
All right. What was growing up like for you? You're from Germany. I'm from Canada. Um, what was just like growing up in Germany like for you on a, like a, I'm Canadian, you're German. What was that kind of like? What's the difference? I mean, you've been to Canada and the US, so like what are the differences there? I feel like it's different.
Um, I mean, I can only imagine what the difference would be compared to Canada, or I guess it depends on the area as well. Because you grew up in Manitoba, right?
Yeah,
Is that,
correct.
yeah. So I grew up in the northern part of Germany, a city called Hamburg.
Okay.
Maybe you heard about it. It's
I've heard the name. Yeah, I actually have.
yeah, it's quite a big city, 2 million inhabitants, and I just grew up in the suburbs, like normal family residential area. But it was quite cool because we had access to the city center with subways, and like there's a big cultural diversity because it's kind of a metropolitan city. But I guess to answer the question, the comparison, Germany is very I don't know, I guess what correct you could say,
Yeah.
or like very efficient in the school system. It seems like compared to a lot of the other cultures or countries, just very I guess I don't know, just on point or on it or something. I mean, I don't definitely not include myself in that, but I think that's how the system. I guess that's how the system works, and what the Germans are trying to be good at, and I guess they are, or a lot of them are. I don't
Well,
know.
let's be honest, dude. You are a wizard when it comes to snowboarding precision. So the schooling worked out for you. Because maybe you didn't take that in like I'm gonna go and be like a PhD doctor, but you took it to the streets, and
Yeah.
holy hell, dude, you've had a career where it's hard to like go through all the stuff you've ever filmed and kind of put it in a timeline, because I mean you've been at it for a while now, and it seems pretty, you grew up in Germany. There's not that many German pros. How did snowboarding all start for you? Did you start when you were like 14 because you ran across a magazine, or are you the young kid who got into it?
Yeah. Funny side note, I don't know if you knew, but I've told Jake this a couple years ago, and up until then he didn't know either. My mom is actually Canadian. My mom is born in Quebec, a little town between Quebec City and Montreal. It's called Victoriaville. It's actually the hometown of Will Lavigne and a bunch of other local shredders. So when I was a little kid,
There's something in the water, dude. You got that little bit of Le Whiff in you, that little bit of French Canadian perfect. Like you ain't tapping on those switchback nose press, those half cab nose presses. Your mom brought that little bit of gene or whatever's in the water there, and it mixed with your German precision, or the BMW. Just an absolute wonderful oiled machine you got going in there at those snowboard legs of yours.
thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know, maybe there is something in the water because I've thought the same. It's just like every Quebecan snowboarder just has something about him or about them. But to answer the question from earlier, so my mom is French Canadian, my dad's originally German. But since I'm a little kid, we used to travel to Quebec in the wintertime when we could, like as a family trip. Obviously, it was like a lot to go there with the fam and expensive and everything. But since my whole family from my mom's side lived and is still living there, we used to try and go a bunch. So I was kind of introduced to snowboarding and even snowboarding in the city at a super young age. Like I've seen it around. I was at a parking garage near Montreal once, and I've seen snowboarders jumping on some signs or jumping off some stuff in the city, and I've never even seen that before, and I've never snowboarded before, and that was at the age of 5 or something. So I kind of already had decided that that's the coolest
Sick.
shit and that I want to do that at some
That must
point.
have been like mid 90s.
That was let's say like 96, I guess.
Wow, you got to wonder who were those individuals and what are they doing today?
Oh, yeah, I have no idea, dude. That must have been like the early generation, like before bandwagon and stuff, I think.
So sick.
So yeah, I got home, and then the first real ski vacation we went on to Austria, I was put on skis. I was 6. I was put on skis and kind of already knew I don't want to do that. I want to snowboard, and told my parents like, hey, I want to do this. And then my dad and we made a deal. He's like, okay, let's just do it for 2 days and then you can snowboard. I'm like, okay, sounds fair. And then after 2 days, it was Christmas, and he did the coolest thing ever. He bought me an old F2 129 from the rental store, and it was under the Christmas tree.
No way.
Days of skiing, that board was under the Christmas tree, and then put those fucking things away and started snowboarding. And that was, I think that was the first day. 6 years old, December 25th.
Of like 1998 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that, something along those lines.
Wow, dude. What a young age to get started. That explains so much. When you hear like a lot of people have come on the show, and a lot of the people who I would say are like the best, they either one of two things. They either ride half pipe or they started when they're 6 years old.
Yeah,
You started when you're 6.
riding helps a lot. It's crazy, man. I wish I rode more when I was younger.
Yeah, I mean half pipes. Look at Arthur Luongo, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Simply said, it's like you ride pipe, and then you quit pipe, and then everything else is a joke.
Yeah, take that skill set to somewhere else, and it's literally just nothing for them.
So what would have your boots look back then? Are you wearing like Sorel's breaking your ankles on that first board?
No, those were hard shell boots, women's in I don't know what's the US size, but it's like size 36 euro. So it would be like a 5 or something. And those were women boots because the men boots were too big for me at the time. And full on posse stance, of course, like 35 degrees or something. There's photos. It's pretty funny.
No way. You got to send me some of those photos, because you're going full like Damian Sanders style hard boot racer. That's so sick.
Definitely started jumping on that shit and then I found out this might not be the right setup to do tricks with it.
Oh, dude, just think about like if you were to stand up and find your balance point with a 30 stance in hard boots, and someone was like, stand there, and then they were to touch your shoulders, you'd probably fall over. Therefore, probably not being the best, like, stance.
No.
I'm surprised people rep that for so long way back then.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess there is a certain type of riding that you can adapt into that setup. But for me, at the time, I just had no fucking idea. I was just so hyped to be on a snowboard. And obviously after the first couple turns worked out, I was like, hey, Dad, look at this. And just jumped off everything I could find, like.
Did you get a coach or a lesson? Like, did they have lessons in Germany back in 1996? Or what did the snowboard world look like? Were you the only person on the hill?
There were some snowboarders, like, but full on, like, I don't know, not really progressive or anything. We didn't have parks, we had nothing, but there were some, let's say, outlaws, or I don't know how to describe them, just freaks that were snowboarding, you know?
Sick.
I was this little kid, 6 years old, also considered as a freak, I guess. But well, we had this baby slope so the resorts are quite high, as you know, in Europe. You know, the slopes go up quite high elevation wise. So
Totally.
on top of one of the resorts, we had a little baby slope. My dad just kind of watched me, like, let's say for half an hour until I somewhat had it figured out. And then he just said, all right, I'm going to take some laps. See you at the end of the day. They're sending it with the other ski homies or whoever was there. And then at the end of the day, he was like, okay, are we going to do the home run, like all the way down to the parking lot? Because as I said, the baby slope or the bunny slope was super high up. And all right, let's do it. I think I can do it. And of course, it fucking took like 3 hours. I remember it got dark. So we still got all the way down. So that was a pretty interesting experience, but it started working shortly after that, I'd say.
So it clicked. Did you pick up the skateboard too, or were you doing any other sports at this time, or was like snowboarding your first thing outside of like the school world?
I mean, I was playing soccer, I think, at the time for, I don't know, like a year. Because I mean, I was 6 years old when I started snowboarding. So I think you're kind of getting introduced to other sports around the same age. So from what I remember, I think I was doing a lot of things like playing soccer, playing a little bit of ice hockey, starting to pick up some rollerblades, and then like my friend had a BMX in the basement. So just like anything we could find, we got our hands on and started trying it. But then I'd say around 10, 11 or so, I really started liking snowboarding and skateboarding a lot. So pretty much quit everything else.
Nice. And then that was just full on.
Yeah, pretty much. Well,
Did you, out of curiosity, did they have like rails and jumps at the hill when you're like 10, 11 years old, or were there parks or no?
there were some resorts in Austria for sure, like Flachau Winkel Absolute Park. Maybe you've heard or seen it before. That's been going on for a long time, and then Laux, obviously.
Oh, sick.
Laux had a park since I can think, or since I'm interested in snowboarding. They've always had a gigantic park. So spread out through the Alps, I would say there were proper parks, but then every other resort would have some super random, like really dangerous gap jump and a super sketchy rainbow or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like a rainbow rail that's 20 feet out of the snow and it doesn't have any sort of like wood or steel in the middle. So if you come off early, you could just fly into a post.
Exactly. And then the post would have the feet out, like not dug in all the way.
So sketchy. And how are you getting to the hill back then when you're 10 years old? Like, do you live an hour away? Is it 2 hours away? Are you only going on weekends?
Yeah, actually, so Hamburg is quite far away from the mountains, like really far away. So it wouldn't really work for a day trip or even for, let's say, a long weekend. That's like, I don't know, if you would have 3 days or so, it would make sense to go. So for me, snowboarding in the beginning was really only on school vacation or holidays, which was kind of a bummer. But then we had this local snowboard shop in Hamburg, snowboard and surf shop, because Hamburg is quite close to the coast as well. Um, just went there with my parents one day, and they've told us about this show or this demo that's about to happen, or like that's gonna happen next weekend in Hamburg. And it was the Atomic snowboard team. Atomic?
Oh, I remember Atomic.
Yeah, so it was the Atomic snowboard team that went to Hamburg, and they built this in-city big air. Like, I mean, but it was a tiny big air at the time. And the snowboard shop was just letting us know, like, hey, there's a snowboard event going on in Hamburg. You guys should check it out. And then my friends like, yeah, we should go. And then that morning I started packing my gear. I don't know, I think I was 9 or 10 or at 10 at the time. Started packing my snowboard gear, like lacing my boots up and everything, thinking I could snowboard there that day. Because to me, it was just obvious, like, yeah, there's a snowboard event. Like of course I'm gonna go and gonna ride, but it was actually just a
Sick.
demo from the team. And then my dad comes to me and he's like, "What are you doing? Like, we're not snowboarding." So I'm like, yeah, of course we are. Like, trying to convince him that it's gonna work out. And then I don't know how it exactly went down, but I ended up bringing my stuff, bringing my boards, my boots. And then I guess my dad was like, okay, well, now you get to talk to the guys. Like, if you want to ride, just talk to them. And then just me, super scared, young 10-year-old. Yeah, like, what's up with this? Can I snowboard?
Imagine if they said no.
Yeah,
Tell me they said yes.
they're like, not really, but yes. I mean, you could. I don't know what they thought. I mean, 10-year-old kid. So they had this tiny little barrier rail at the bottom. And I just was super like shaky and nervous, but started doing some little board slides and 50s because I thought it was so cool that I could snowboard in my hometown. And then they were kind of down and actually asked me if I want to ride an atomic board that night. And the shortest board they had was a 149 women board again. So that was the board I was riding that week that day. And then after the whole event kind of finished up, they actually invited me to go to a contest in the Alps.
Oh, they
So
better, dude. I'm imagining those 50s and those board slides. They better lace you up with an atomic board. How did that event go?
it was pretty cool. It was the Flachauwinkel Absolute Park Spring Battle, and they had a junior jam under 16, I believe it was, and I was 10 or 11, can't exactly remember. And I actually won the thing with a backside 360 tail grab.
Dang.
Because everybody else was going straight.
You had your trick and you put it down. The back 3 tail grab, that seems like pretty. I wonder if you did like back 1 tail grab super aggressive and then hucked it around, or were you floating the back 3 tails around like Blake Paul?
I'm pretty sure I didn't have them like Blake does when I was 10.
Terrible comparison.
But yeah, that was cool. That was kind of that kind of got everything rolling. Like, I was introduced to a sponsor because they started sponsoring me, and then getting introduced to the snowboarding world, like getting invited to some, local things, local shoots, local contests and whatnot. And then, yeah, it kind of started rolling.
Yeah. What was your first? Everybody has like their little crew they started out snowboarding with or skating with or whatever, and you kind of come up with like a crew name.
Mm-hmm.
Did you and your homies have a crew name? Did you guys come up with like did you have like a little media production company when you're like, 12 or 13 with a couple homies?
We did, and it actually has been going on until a few years. I'm quite certain you've heard about it because I've met Alex Tank when I was.
Oh, big fan.
Yeah, me too. And he's
Big
a
style.
really good friend and a really good snowboarder. I think I was 13 and he must have been around 15, 16 at the time. And we're both German, so we connected clicked pretty early and started boarding together. And then we had this crew called Atage.
Atage?
Atage, yeah.
Sick.
They've been Alex has been making movies under the name just up until 3 years ago.
Wow. I feel like I don't know. I probably watched the movies because anything that guy puts out, I watch, but I just probably didn't click in with the name.
Yeah, it's written, maybe you guys pronounce it different. It's Atagge.
Okay. I'm still drawing blank, but
you look it up. They've been putting out some stuff just up until like 3 years ago or so. But yeah, that was the first crew. Like, Alex, and I mean then obviously a bunch of local German and Austrian snowboarders that were around. I don't think any of those guys names will ring a bell, but I think when I was like 16, 17, I met Dominic Wagner
Yeah.
through Nitro, and that was the first real, I don't know, let's say crew where we actually went out and did trips to film some stuff. It was all through Nitro at the time.
Dang, dude, that's crazy because you're still with Nitro till this
Yeah,
day, like
yeah, yeah,
14 years later, or so, or whatever.
yeah. Like 12. I think it's 12 years.
Wow, dude, dang, that's sick, dude. Are you the longest riding Nitro rider?
No,
You
Aaron.
and Arrow Edela. Okay, since we just brought up Arrow's name, that guy he loves snowboarding, and he films like the tightest shit. Like, I'm just so juiced every time he's out there filming. I don't know why. It's like since I was like a young kid, he was such a big name. And for him to like not get dated and do switchback lips that are like still in the middle, I'm like, hell yeah, dude, that is so sick. He's gonna be like 45 and switchback lipping like solid big kinks, and I can't wait to see it.
He's super impressive. I don't know, just the motivation and energy he has to keep doing it is really, really impressive.
I want to grab his pants though and pull him down a little bit. Sometimes his pants are just a little too high for me. I just want to like yank him down 2 inches. You know, if I was his team manager and this was 2002, I'd be like, we just got to sag the pants a little bit, dude, and you're good to go.
Yeah, maybe he listens to this show and then
Hell yeah. I'd tell him myself, dude, he's a legend, dude. I'm a joke compared to that dude, but I'd pull him down. I like baggy pants.
yeah. No, he's such a good snowboarder, such a good human, and I mean, if you think about it, he's done so much, man. Like he's put out so many parts, and I think he's just really addictive and really obsessed with snowboarding still. I think it just gives him so much pleasure, and I don't know. I mean, he filmed a video called Ender, like
Oh yeah. Yeah, how long ago was that?
no end in sight.
Yeah, exactly. That's such a good way to put it. No end in sight. That should be his next movie. Because he just kept going.
Ender too.
Yeah, it's like he filmed some clips with McMorris the other year, and I was like, dang, like he does not stop, and he doesn't do shit crooked or tapping or whatever where you're like, oh, we'll give it, or coming out early where you're like, oh, we'll give the old guy a break because he's coming out early or doing front boards to fakie, but like front boards to fakie look pretty G, but like when you kind of just get old and washed up, they can just not look good. Everything he's doing is so precise.
Yeah.
Yeah, big fan. We kind of trailed off there, but yeah, Arrow Edela, boss.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, Nitro though. You're still with them. Are you happy? Or are they paying you good money? Are you stoked?
I'm definitely happy. I mean, I'm happy to be part of a family, happy to be part of a snowboard company that's a snowboard company and has its roots in snowboarding, you know.
Totally.
And I mean, still privately owned, which is sick, and it's quite cool to see that working out for a company. I think they're running a pretty healthy business too, in ways of how they, or at least from what I know, is how they pay people and how they deal with things. It's just nothing like completely insane for anyone or for any sorts of project. It's just kind of like everyone is kind of cool with it, like it works for everyone.
Yeah.
But it's not, okay, we got to sign this one guy like for fucking incredible, like insane.
Yeah, 200 grand or something like that or whatever.
That's never been their strategy, and I think that's one of the reasons why they've remained quite consistent. Or I guess that's just how I see it, but for sure there's ups and downs how you look at companies. But I'm definitely stoked. I'm super happy to be part of a family for sure.
Yeah, Yeah, I hope that they're treating you well, because when I think of Nitro, you're one of the riders that like pops into my head. I mean, every video part I've ever seen, you've had one of their boards on. It's pretty. There's not a lot of riders who've been with companies for over a decade and who are still filming A+ stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Thank you. Appreciate that. I
yeah,
hope,
dude.
hope they see that as well.
Yeah, dude. That's why we're on. That's why we got you on the podcast, bro.
Yeah,
It's called the yeah. It's just like jump on the podcast and then I just pump you up for an hour and a half and and then send you back out and then you just start crushing it again. All right, you don't. That's the thing is you don't need to keep crushing it because you've done it. I watched a bunch of your videos over the last few days, just to get a fresh reminder. You know what I mean? It's always nice to like go through all the hard work that somebody's put in and rewatch it all. And I was like, holy and a lot of the old edits like that I hadn't seen in years since I was a kid. Like since I first noticed you being on the map, I was like, wow, like I haven't seen these. And that first part I ever remember seeing was like an Ice and Sevens, kind of like when you were incorporated with that for those few years. What was it like? Was that the first major project that you were filming for?
I would say, well, it was, I had a great opportunity when I just had finished my high school to jump on a filming trip with Nitro, because they've been working on some projects called the Road Warriors. So that's when I also met Dominic and Mark Svoboda back in the days. So it was really cool going out with them and getting introduced to filming street stuff. I don't know. I guess those videos haven't really made it over the ocean. Those were quite local, and I think they've been noticed or recognized in Europe. But I think maybe, yeah. I mean, shortly after that, I got the chance to film or was filming a year with Eastern, or one season for Eastern 7. So maybe this was kind of like, I don't know, maybe the first break or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time your name had reached me over here all the way in Canada. I was like, damn, this kid's sick. And the refresher for me was that I just watched was that the back nose P, back 180 switch nose P, or back nose P, back 180 nose P that you
Yeah.
have on that down rail. I think it was like one of your last clips. Anyways, I was like, holy shit.
Which one was that in?
Ice and Seven, and it was just you had a shared part with Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you had the middle part.
Oh, yeah. Fuck. I remember now, dude. That's a long time ago. I remember.
Yeah, I think it was 12 years ago.
Yeah, for that part or for that movie, I think we went to Chicoutimi. Is there some Canada footage in there?
Uh I,
Maybe.
maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a long time ago, but that was the beginning, man. That was when it all started. Hit the streets.
Yeah, did you? So when you came over to Canada for the first time, you said you had been over here a few times with your family. When was the first time you ever came overseas with like a snowboard bag and you're like, I'm here to film?
Um, I've actually, the first time I went to Canada specifically to go snowboarding was to Whistler, which is kind of crazy.
World.
Yeah, it's fucking sick. I like Whistler. I love the mountain. Unfortunately, or not unfortunately, it was really sick. It was in the summertime when Camp of Champions was still a thing. And at the time, the lady that was managing it, Fabia, she was really in touch with Pleasure Magazine,
Yep.
which is a German snowboard mag. And they always had a week or something, or like 2 weeks at the Camp of Champions through like Eastern 7 and everything. That had like some certain shoots, like planned Eastern 7 shoots and whatnot. And I got the chance to go with those guys. So that was my first time going to Canada to snowboard for like 2 weeks in Whistler.
We definitely met then because
Probably met from the distance or something, because that's
from the distance. Because were you there with Alex Tank and all those dudes?
I was there with Alex.
Yeah, that's when I met all like that whole crew. You were probably amongst them, but I just was a little bit too shy to meet you.
probably shook hands.
Yeah, dude, we probably hiked some rails together. I have a photo of like me and then like all of those Euros that came there that year hiking like a down rail.
Yeah, let's look it up. Maybe I'll see myself on
Yeah,
that.
yeah, you'll see yourself in the photo, dude. That's sick. And how did your experience go at COC? Did you have a good time? Were you like, this place is dope?
I loved it, man. It was, like getting out of Europe to snowboard somewhere for 2 weeks in the summer. That was so crazy to me. Like flying so far. It was really cool. I really enjoyed it. And I think we got super lucky with the weather. It's just perfect. Like all I can remember is just perfect every day or like the entire time we're there. I have this one distinct memory too, which is really cool to when we took the chair down from the glacier. We had the boots unlaced and everything. Looking down, we saw some bears, some brown bears under the chairlift. And then we exited at the bottom. We saw Kale Hill making advertisement for a bar or something. And then we walked straight to the lake that's there. What's it called again?
There's so many. Lost Lake, Alpha Lake.
Lost Lake. And that's where every like all the locals, including yourself, probably were chilling, just playing some soccer. I don't know, some muff. It was epic memories for sure.
Oh, the
love
Kale Hill plug at the bottom of the chairlift trying to get you to go to a bar. I remember that. Like he had he had drawn with felt marker on his chest like a tie, and he was walking around the village for like a week He was like working for like one of the local establishments, being like, come to nightclubs. I was like, I don't know if this is helping people. Like, I don't know if this is drawing people in to come to your nightclub.
that must have been in that same time.
Big time. Yeah, I think that was when he was, doing some boozing and stuff, and now he's totally chilling, focused on boarding and stuff. I actually did a podcast with him a couple months ago, at the beginning of the year, and just awesome to see that kid just kind of turn it around, because I think he was just drinking too much and stuff like that. So he slowed down, and now he's back on his Super Mario shit, snowboarding. It's awesome.
That's great to see when people get the turn around for sure. I remember he had one part that was really sick where he's riding that tiny board. I think it was one of the dope videos.
Yeah, dope 2 or 3. I think he had like a mini part in like most of those movies, but dude, yeah, when Brockle and him come together and make something, they're always pretty crazy. Or he had like these David used to make these edits called Walk in the Parks. And it would just be like he had one with like Kuzik and Kale Hill and Jeeves and stuff like that. And he would just go and film somebody all day in the park and make an edit. And the Kale Hill one's crazy if you ever have the chance or the drive to want to click on watch that. But I mean, now with our phones, we get force fed so much snowboarding content on loop that it's hard to want to go and set aside time to go on YouTube and watch more of it.
Yeah, that's true. But it's nice to just filter it and pick something that you're like really into. Like if I remember that one day, I'm like, or if I think about Kale Hill, for example, like, oh shit, maybe I'll go check that out.
Yeah, there's something about setting aside some time to actually watch a movie on your TV or on your laptop in full screen and watch it in its entirety. That to me is like watching a video. You know what I mean? Like when people's parts get released online and you watch half of it while you're at work, and then you get in the car and finish another few clips, but then get distracted. And it's like, I really hope people don't watch. Like if I filmed a full part that I was really proud of and it came out and people were watching it on their phone, like half and half not, you're like, damn it. Like if somebody sets aside some time to like fully watch it, that's the dopest thing in the world.
Yeah, it's
That's
great.
what I want to see.
For sure. I agree. It's like the effort put in, it needs like almost the right platform to be watched on or something.
Big time. And I mean, you getting to work with Vans has been amazing, because every time they put out a project, I feel like their following is the type to set aside the time to be like, I'm going to watch this movie in its entirety. But before you get on Vans, it was 32. And I want to just quickly touch base on that.
Cool.
You know, you 32 was kind of a big one for you, I feel like, too, because you got to be a part of that movie. And that was another big, like, moment, I feel like, for you, you know, filming with JP and Joe and stuff like that. What was it like to be intertwined with, like, the legend, JP, the Don, and Joe Sexton, who's pretty much a god, too?
Yeah, it was insane. I remember they did it. So at the time, the 32 team was just so fucking insane. Like Grenier, Scott, JP, Joe, and just to name a few, they all flew over to Europe to do the spot check video. So they did a European spot check tour, and on that spot check tour, they invited a few Euro local AM kids to join the tour. So it was Tony Kerkula, Cas Lemons, Donnie Raichani, Dominic Wagner, and myself that got to join a few spots.
Those kids are all so sick, especially Cass. Wow.
Yeah, those dudes are all unreal. And so we got to join the global pro team from 32 while they're in Europe, like going to the mountain with them and staying at the same place and eating dinner with them and like hiking a down bar with JP Walker.
Yes, I love it.
Dude, I just remember getting into the gondola with them. I don't know where it was. It might have been Lax. I can't remember. So hop in the gondola, and I remember meeting Scott Stevens, and I was so starstruck because I was really young. I was so starstruck, like, holy shit, they're all in one gondola, and I'm just like falling into it, you know? And then I remember Scott saying, dude, we've been we heard you're coming on this trip. We've been kind of waiting for you to join. And I was like, what? He did not just say that. That's a lie. That's crazy. But yeah, that was on that tour. I got to meet those dudes and kind of found out how they are as a person and really liked everyone. So
that's an all-time cast for sure. I've gotten to know those guys, and yeah, every time I've met any of those guys, that weird energy that I feel like some snowboarders put in their head, they're like, oh, those people might be weird. It's like, those guys are not at all. Like, go and talk to them, hang out with them, do a few laps. Wow, what a great group of guys. Those guys rule.
No, they're all super
Solid.
cool. No, they're all really, really good dudes. And I think that was definitely like really nice and maybe also helpful in the long run to know some of them, you know, like proceeding with 32.
Big
And
time.
then I think a year or two later, they start working on the 2032 full-length movie.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really filming much for that video until Joe Sexton hit me up saying like, hey, they want to come to Europe for a jump trip, like starting in Avoriaz in France and then working their way somewhere else to just find powder and jumps. So he hit me up and asked me if I wanted to join because he remembered us boarding together in a resort with some fresh powder. It's like, oh, seems like you can ride some powder. Would you join? And then I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, that sounds insane. Of course I want to join. Who's on the trip? He says it's Justin Meyer, JP Walker, myself, and Harrison Gordon. Because it was together, it was linked. That movie was linked with VG that year because Justin was producing 23rd and VG. So he brought Harrison, who filmed for Videograss, on that trip. So I was just with those dudes strolling around Europe trying to find jumps.
Oh, dude, what a cast! And I mean, Harrison, dude, you go anywhere with that guy, and you're just happy.
Best time with Harrison.
What an easy guy to hang out with.
He's the best, man.
Yeah, totally. Best vibes ever, probably.
Love Harrison.
Harrison makes snowboarding awesome. Just the fact that he's in it. It's just like when I show up anywhere and he's bored and I'm like, I'm at the right spot. Yeah.
No, yeah, that was pretty sick. So, and then I think getting to know Justin on that trip was maybe the reason, because we've stayed in touch a bit, and I went to Salt Lake the year after, and I think he kind of was like, yo, like, what are you doing next year? Would you want to film for Videograss? And
Visitors.
yeah, that was Visitors. So I think that like hanging out with Justin, getting to know him and filming with him and Joe and having a really good time together, and just the constellation kind of working out maybe led to the opportunity working on a Videograss part the year after.
Yeah, when talent meets timing, dude, and you put your work in and you had the fundamentals down and you go on one of those trips and you ride with Joe. You said you hiked a down rail with JP. I feel like all that stuff you don't think adds up. And at the end of the day, it's like if you're a nice person with some skills that a photographer, the filmer, and the riders get along with, that and you're a hard worker, that's all people want. You know what I mean? And I feel like you probably brought all of those elements plus a lot of skill. So they're like, of course we want to have you in the movie. And you had a really sick part that year.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Jody. That means a lot. Yeah, it was just, I felt so privileged or so happy that I got the chance, also to work on stuff outside of Europe and to connect with people outside of, the snowboarding world that I've grown up in. So that was super nice.
Here's a question I have for you is, did you ever feel like your friends you grew up with in Germany and maybe your European friends, was there ever some, I don't know how to word this, but like not resentment, but like maybe some slight jealousy or envy, or like were some of your friends like kind of like happy for you, but you could see that they're like, oh, you're gonna bail on filming for like another Ice and Seven, or you're gonna bail on this, or was everybody like, hell yeah, dude, you're in VG now and stuff, or were some people like, yo, like you should stay with your homies and like film with us?
I know what you mean. I don't think there has been like crossovers where I got the chance to film, let's say for Videograss, but could have stuck with the homies from home. It's also like always when I had these opportunities, there wasn't really much else going on, I feel like, or that's
Totally.
I remember it. So I jumped on these opportunities, I think with a good feeling and not feeling like, oh shit, like I'm ditching my bros or something.
Because I feel like that's a thing that happens more than people would like to admit. Like I remember when Jeeves started filming for Standard, and when Jake first started filming for Videograss, or like any of those close friend of mine, like Soller's filming for Eddie Graham's movies and stuff. And there's always like that, you're happy for them, but you're like, oh, you're not going to do what we're doing anymore. And I feel like, that's sick that you didn't have that option or something like that. Cause sometimes I feel like when your friends get that big opportunity to go and play in the big leagues, you got to just be hyped for them. You know what I mean? And it sounds whack to say big leagues or whatever, but as long as that's what they want, you know what I mean? If it's not what they want, they want to just film with the homies, keep doing with that. Cause you know what I mean? They can, if they stay with the homies too, they can make the homie video really sick. But like, I don't know, if you have an opportunity to go and film with Videograss, yeah, you take that.
Yeah, I would recommend doing that, because I don't know, I've been growing up with those videos, and to me it was just such a, I don't know, like getting to meet Justin too and getting to know him and the mastermind behind it was kind of eye-opening to me. So I don't know, I would recommend or give advice to any snowboarder coming up to kind of experience around and not just stick with one, let's say, like, I don't know how to say this, but kind of experiment in terms of like meet new people, get out there, like connect.
Variety is the spice of life.
Yeah, like try different shit. Like, I don't know, even if you're only want to jump, like maybe go on a rail trip or vice versa, you know, just try yourself out and see what you like, and don't get too boxed in what you think you should do or what you supposed to do or what you think you can only do. Just kind of like jump over that barrier and just try it out, you know what I mean?
Love that, man. I couldn't agree more, dude. Seizing opportunity. I mean, Videograss to me seemed like the one that really opened the doors for you transitioning into like the young snowboard kid to your more grown up and I would say a lot more like tasteful style, which you've adapted into now, which I think, that we all have like that 2010, 2015 look, but the look when you got on Vans after the Videograss kind of stuff to me really like shaped your snowboarding in such a good light. Like I think that transition from 32 to Vans fit you more, and everything you filmed since you've got on Vans is like, the last 4 or 5 video parts I watched in a row, I was like, holy shit, all of these clips are timeless. Like, it's beautifully done. You've worked with some of the best filmers. So I guess a question I have for you is transitioning from 32 to Vans. What was that like for you when you got the call? How did that all happen?
Honestly, that might sound pretty direct or harsh, but I feel like I could finally be 100% myself in what I want to wear and how I want to look and how I want to, or like in terms of gear, like I just look down, it's like, okay, I want to wear these boots, I want to wear these shoes, or I want to wear this kit. Like I finally didn't feel like I have to put something on because it's one of my sponsors. Like I would go out and buy that shit because I wear, that's what I want to wear. And maybe that translates in the footage or the snowboarding or riding in general, because I definitely feel more at home or something, like with everything since that transition.
That was so sick, dude. That must have felt so good because I've rode for brands in the past where you nailed it there. Like, actually, it doesn't even matter if you ride for them. Like, even just the average Joes out there who are just going out to like buy product. There's nothing better than liking the way your boots look and your pants look and your jacket, and you're riding at wherever and you feel good. Like, that is an amazing feeling. Like, I get, if I am in my truck driving somewhere to like a social event, which we haven't had for 2 years because of COVID, but like when those happen and I hate what I'm wearing, I feel so shitty and I just want to go. I hate not liking what I'm wearing. So to ride for a brand that literally kind of dictates what you look like, if you don't like what they make year in and year out,
It's
the
hard.
relief of signing with a brand that you actually like all the stuff they're making is like weight off of your shoulders. That is amazing because I've been there. I remember riding for a company called West Beach back in the day,
Yeah, I
and I
remember.
loved what the fundamentals of the company and the history, but it was like years of just everything fit wrong. I hated all the colors, and it was just like, at what point do you just go like, I would rather not be sponsored than wear this shit?
For sure, I 100% agree with what you're saying. It's like this, it has to, how do you say, also
Compliment.
also just getting my English back. Haven't been speaking much English since COVID because I've just been staying over
You're
here.
doing very well.
But I'm still looking or searching for words in my head sometimes. But what I'm trying to say is like, is it worth it sometimes to ride for someone that, I mean, not necessarily money, but do you think like it has to be worth it for you to put something on that you don't like? Like if it's a fat pay or something, it's a compromise almost. But are you in it to make compromises, or are you in it to I don't know, grow into a rider that you want to be? Or like, is it worth it for you not to look like you want to look? Because as you're saying, it makes a big difference. I notice it with even just hard gear. Like for example, a friend of mine just had recently changed board sponsors, including different bindings, and he looks completely different. Like just the silhouette and how everything fits together, it just looks different. And sometimes it can look a lot sicker, sometimes it can look not as sick, but it does change a lot.
This is the best conversation we've ever had on the podcast. So sick. The silhouette thing, I couldn't agree more. You know, you see sometimes we've all had that photo taken of us, whether it's in your gear or just in a Hawaiian shirt, and you're just like, I don't want to ever look like that again. And it is so sick to ride for a company and put on the stuff and feel good in it. And it sucks. And we're not trying to push it down your throat or anything like that. But to me, when I get a box from Vans, I'm like, hell yeah. And it goes beyond just the way it fits. What the company stands for is something that like I back. And I think moving into this like new world that we're all trying to shape, it's like riding for a soulless company feels shitty. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel good at the end of the day. Riding for a company that you don't like, none of your friends like, doesn't give back to your community, doesn't support snowboarding in a good way. It's like it's kind of like hollow or soulless in some ways. So it definitely feels good to look good in your outerwear. So go out there and buy stuff that makes you feel good, people, whether it's at Value Village or at your skate shop, because you look good, you feel good, life's rolling in the right direction. You know what I mean? It is for me anyway.
100%, 100%. Just one last thing I want to add to this conversation is that I think there is a lot of people that are privileged enough to say no to things and say, oh no, I don't want to ride for this company because they don't need it and they don't want to put on their clothes or whatever. Or, you know, I think you know what I'm trying to say. But then including myself, when I was getting sponsored and everything, I was kind of like, in my head, I was thinking, okay, well, this is like, I don't know, 2,000 euros a year or something. And that helps me to do a lot, which I would have to work in the fall to, you know, get that instead. So in my head, when I was younger, I was like, for sure, I'm taking this because then it will allow me to go to the mountains, to go snowboarding, finance a filming trip, do that. So I just wanted to mention that not everyone is in a position to say no to certain offers, including myself when I was younger. So can just add that I'm more than happy to now ride for a brand that I actually want to put the stuff on, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, as you mentioned at the very beginning of this topic, which we can't overlook, is compromise. Like at what level are you willing to compromise? You know what I mean? Are you like, I would rather work in the summer than get $2,000 from this company I don't like. You know what I mean? You have to make that call. No one's going to make it for you. You know what I mean? Like for some people, making $2,000 is insanely hard. You know what I mean? And to save that. So if a company comes up to you and you have to wear purple pants with some yellow stars on the knees, you're like, I'll do it. And you know what? Good for you. Do it. If it doesn't make you feel bad doing it, then who cares what anybody else thinks? Because at the end of the day, you're the one going to sleep in your own head. So do whatever's best for you. But at a certain point, if you feel uncomfortable in those purple pants with the green stars on your knees and it's making you feel shitty, you need to realize that maybe working for 3 weeks in the summer is better than the $2,000 from the purple pants and the stars.
And then you can wear whatever you want for an entire season.
Yeah. I think a lot of kids these days you go through a park these days, most kids that have fallen in love with snowboarding and have that same passion that you and me have had or still have, they are pretty particular about their gear, or at least the kids that I find to be tasteful and that I would be, if I was a team manager, I'd be like, that's a kid I'm into. A lot of them just going to, Value Village, or like buying a Burton jacket that's a few years old, but they like the way it fits, or buying an old analog pants because they liked the analog pants that Mickle used to wear, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, find
Yeah.
something that represents you without, but then the compromise thing comes in, someone comes up to you and goes, O'Neill comes up to you. How much would it cost for O'Neill to buy you out of your Vans contract? What's the number?
Dude, I mean, not gonna drop any numbers, but I honestly don't think there's anything I would be down to wear. I mean, not to hate on it, but if they would have a black pen and a black jacket, that's a whole different conversation. But
think about like, I think about who you are. It's Benny, sick as snowboarder, good taste, like your skateboarding, artistic, likes to shoot photos, film photos, that whole like vibe that you have, that I believe is so fitted to Vans. If you were to ride for O'Neill, I feel like you would have an identity crisis. You would be like, who is Benny now that I ride for O'Neill? And your silhouette would be crazy.
it would be more the silhouette thing than personal crisis, I think. But let's not have it come so far.
Yeah, true. All right. I don't want to overlook the fact that you went to the X Games and you got silver. My man, way to go. Congratulations. What was it like to tackle that event?
Yeah, one another approach where I was kind of like, holy shit, I guess I'm doing this. Couldn't really believe that this opportunity is on the table, because I mean, I don't look at myself at the snowboarder that has come, like to a certain point or whatever, and like that I think like, oh yeah, I should deserve this, I should get invited every year or whatnot. It was just all of a sudden the opportunity was there, and I kind of just had to realize or face the fact that if I'm jumping on this project, that I kind of want to go all in, because up until that, I didn't really feel like I had a project or a part or something where I really went in, like I don't want to say all in, but kind of like was facing consequential stuff, because I'm not really a snowboarder that likes to play with high consequence spots or tricks or something like that. But obviously when you get into this X Games thing, real street, it's just, I don't know, you know what you're up against it. And to me, I knew I'm gonna jump on this opportunity, but not, I wanted to do good, I guess that's.
Yeah. You didn't want to half-ass it. You didn't want to jump in and then not commit.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, okay, fuck, if I'm saying yes, I gotta commit, and we did. I luckily got Alex Pfeffer, my long-term friend, who's also a snowboard filmer, to film the whole edit and to travel with me for 2 months straight. And Dominic Wagner was with me as well, helping me out and filming stuff for his Method and Nitro project at the time. So it was a cool constellation, but it was also not that fun, dude. It was not fun at all, actually. I mean, of course,
I love you being open about this. Let's talk about the not fun. Dive into that. Why?
I mean, not to misunderstand it, but I mean, you're traveling with your boys, that's all cool, and you're at the spot, and that's all cool. But the stuff you're getting into and the headspace, like being so hard on yourself and just like everything, like within these 2 months, like your entire life, or at least that's how it was for me, my entire life, like every day was kind of scheduled amongst or like around that project. And it was just so much, dude. It was like, it was not fun.
Did the silver outweigh the amount of non-fun you're having?
It wasn't so much the medal in the end. It was more I was happy with how the section came out.
Dude.
I was like, I don't say that about any other shit that I really have out, or like not too much stuff that's out there I can look at and like, okay, that's something I'm like stoked on. So that was cool to put out a project where I was involved from the beginning to the end, like in terms of like direction, I guess, and not just writing. Where I look back, it's like, okay, this is something I'm hyped on.
Yo, the 50-50 on the zebra million kink little drop spike rail, your ender, the like 1,000,000,000 wave rail or whatever you want to call that. Did you come up with a name for that thing?
Yeah, actually, Spencer Schubert has a name for it.
What is it?
Spencer and me, while filming for 32, we're at a spot that was similar in Boston at a university, and so those two spots are quite similar. And when I found it in Japan, I just sent him a pic, and he says, "That thing looks like the spot in Boston. Is that Iron Man's dick part 2?"
There you go. There you have it. Your enders on Iron Man's dick. That was such a sick ride. If you would have slowly started turning your board at one point and caught your edge, whew.
That actually almost happens in the make.
I saw. It's
Yeah.
That's a Dylan Ojo kind of rail, you know what I mean? He liked to hop on some crazy pieces of steel.
I know. Yeah, maybe that was one for him.
The boardy too in that part was phenomenal, right in the middle. Very, if you bring it back to your genes from your mom having grown up in Quebec, that board slide on the ledge was right in the middle, and you go through that last little piece of concrete like a god, right in the middle. No slide, never the blunt slide, just in the middle. If you had trucks there, you wouldn't even be hitting in the metal. You were good to go the whole way down.
We got really lucky. We got really lucky on that spot because it was quite warm that day, and ledges aren't the best thing to hit when it's relatively warm. Or let's say
Terrible idea. You need it super cold.
yeah, like freezing. So we're rough breaking the shit out of that thing. Like Dom and me, honestly, I think we put in 2 hours of just proper bricking, like rounding the edges, smoothing it, waxing it, hot waxing it, the whole deal. Jumped on it, still kind of sticky. And then something wasn't working out. It was quite warm, it was windy. And then all of a sudden, it started snowing, like pretty heavily. Then it started snowing a bit less. But so there was a little, how do you say, like film
Yeah.
of, or like a little layer of snow on the ledge, which made it so perfectly smooth. I jumped on it and didn't really want to ride with the snowflakes in my eyes. Super shitty conditions to board, but the only really way to make that spot work. So thank God that it snowed there. I don't know if elsewise that spot would have worked out.
There you go, dude. Sometimes you need those little miracles to get to the end of not only the rail, but your life. Sometimes you need those little like hall passes from whoever's up there. Just like, here, Benny, the only way this is going to work is some snow. So there you go, bro. Get to the end of this thing.
I mean, a lot of times it's not working out that way, but you got to have some luck sometimes, right?
Yeah, big time. Moving on to where you're at today. I mean, Evergreen comes out. You have amazing footage in that movie. How did you feel about your footage and that project?
It was a really cool project, kind of under the radar, I think, or at least for me, because it hasn't been communicated, or hasn't really been, so the word really hasn't been out like, okay, we're filming for like a big 2-year video or something. It was kind of like in the first year, I'd say. I mean, it was filmed over the course of 1.5 years, I'd say, or almost 2. It was just, people have just been going out and filming. Like I went on one trip with Sam and Jake to Finland in 2000. Well, that was 2019 then, I think. Yeah, 2019 in January.
Oh, that must have been tough because that would have been after Jake's dad's passing.
Yeah, that was That was a lot of stuff going on his end, I think. But he still went on the trip, and it was great to finally be on a trip with him. I've been hoping to get the chance for a long time, especially in that constellation with Sam, Harry, and Ollie G. That was in a place like Helsinki. It was pretty fucking sick, but unfortunately it rained a bit, so the trip was cut short. But to get back to the question, it was just like people have been out filming, I think, and then in the second year when the crew has been kind of like being a bit more local in the States, it was a bit um, um, not so easy to find a start, like when to go to the States and how long am I going to stay. I'm still living in Europe, so I was trying to go back and forth. But it was a super fun project. I ended up going on 2 to 3 trips, I think, in total, and one to Milwaukee with Cole, Tanner, and Kennedy, and Daryl actually came for a
Wow.
good amount too. So that trip was really cool, really efficient, and sweet crew. Yeah, it was sick. And then we ended up going to Quebec as well with Harry, Parker, Daryl again. And that was fucking sick. But unfortunately, it rained. Classic Quebec scenario. It rained a lot and then it got super cold. So everything was an ice rink. And then COVID started getting a bit more serious. So every morning we had this, I don't know, we're just on the breakfast table and in our Airbnb chatting about what to do for an hour. Like, are we actually going to go out and film snowboarding? Is this a thing now? Or are we just going to race back home to our families because the world's going under? Like, what are we?
Elaborate more on that. I want to hear about these breakfast conversations. Like, were you guys like at one point were you guys like, hey, we have to pull the plug?
So luckily Bob Plum was with us, which is always great company. He's the best. I love spending time with Bob and on trips. He's the best. He was with us, and every morning him and me have been kind of talking about like, okay, what's going on. It's like I wanted to know what's going on in Utah, like how's it evolving there. And I've just been chatting with my dad every now and then, with my mom back home, trying to figure out what's going on in Europe. And it's just been like, yeah, it's getting a bit more serious, but nobody really knows what to do with it. Da 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 da. And we're like, okay, I guess we're good. Let's just stay here, wait it out. Let's just film, and then we'll get home. And then I remember one morning I get texts separately from my mom and my dad, and they're like, get the fuck home. Like, you should, like, we're not telling you what to do, but get the fuck home. Like, you should fly back to Europe. Because we live so far away. My mom still lives in Hamburg. My dad lives 5 hours away, and I live in Innsbruck. But they're like, you should get to your place. Like, go home to your girlfriend, go home to Elisa, somewhere in a happy place, safe place. Like, we don't feel good about you being out there. And my parents never really hit me up with shit like that. So when they did, I was like, okay, like, this is changing things a bit. Like, maybe I should reconsider. And then I think 2 mornings after that, we all agreed on breakfast, like, we should go home. Like, let's not go out and film today. We probably would have stayed another 2 weeks or so, but we all raced home.
At that point, though, you were doing what I feel like needed to be done. Because when it first started, I remember thinking to myself, well, I was washing all my groceries in the shower with me with Javix and stuff like that because I was so scared that this was going to be the next zombie apocalypse slash
Yeah.
like the world was going to end. And well, boy, was I wrong, because I was like, oh, people are going to start dying on the streets. Like, I'm going to go to the grocery store and people are just going to be like dying on like in the middle of the aisle. Like, oh, that guy almost got a bag of chips, but he died. Like, this is insane. And then, yeah. Now I'm like, hindsight's a bitch, because then I would have not been in the shower with rubber gloves and my groceries, and
Mm.
I was just like took it so far. I mean, of course you want to be taking this serious, but I think that the entire world thought this was going to be like a wipe out half the world scenario. Like for the whole world to close down that abruptly, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be like really bad. Like my dad smokes since he was a kid. Like he's gone. My uncle has cancer. Like he's gone. And
Yeah.
luckily that there's, I got my dad on a bunch of vitamin C and he's still kicking. Same with my uncle. Love him.
Perfect. That's great. That's perfect. Happy to hear that that's all good there. I mean, it's nothing to not take serious, but
No, big time. Take it serious. That was not the,
yeah,
take it serious.
no,
But
for sure.
geez, I thought it was going to be like, I thought it was going to be like crazy bad. Like my headspace was like, do I fill my truck up with all my belongings and drive north? Like these were conversations I was legitimately having with my girlfriend. Like, hey, like, let's pack up my truck and we'll just drive north and disappear from people because we were both so scared.
Yeah, I think a lot of people try to escape to a remote place. Um, for example, some friends of mine in Innsbruck, they just decided, okay, well, we'll go somewhere south in Europe on the coast, like just rent us a cheap Airbnb where we can surf, just to wait it out, kind of. Ended up being stuck in Portugal for like 2 or 3 months, not being allowed to go home.
Yeah, there are some, this is going to be when it's 2030, 2040, we're 50 years old and, going onto Netflix and watching people share their stories about how they are dealing and had to deal with this time in their life is going to be crazy. There's going to be some people who have some wild stories. Like I got locked in a prison and the prison guards, like, I don't even know, but Netflix in 20 years is going to be popping off.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, also, it was so wild because no one really had experience with these circumstances, or nobody knew what to do. Like nobody
Totally.
nobody was like, all right, take it easy. We have everything under control. We'll do this, we'll do that. Everybody was like, including the governments in Europe, everyone was like, all right, we lock everything down, but then we don't, and then we do it again, and then we don't, and then, I mean, obviously they're trying their best, but you could just or you could just feel that they're completely overwhelmed with the situation, which is understandable. But for us in Innsbruck, for example, we weren't in the first lockdown, right when I got home from Quebec, we weren't even allowed to go outside and take a walk and ride our bike in the neighborhood. We were not allowed to do individual sports. Like people were not allowed to go jogging for a month.
Wow.
That was,
Which I understand. Looking back, I understand why governments would do that. But now looking at it, I think that those basic freedoms, like going for a run, should never be allowed to take away from a human. You know what I mean? You should never be like, you have to stay in your house around the clock. Like
yeah.
now that we know the catastrophe of mental issues that we're going to be dealing with for the next long period of time because of this. I mean, like you said, the government didn't know what to do either. So they're just in panic. So then when they're talking to the chief of police, they're like, the police officer's like, what do I do? What do we do to all the people? And they're like, just lock everybody down. And he's like, well, do we use force? They're like, I don't know. Like nobody knew what to do.
They were handing out fines from people that were not following the rules, like people that went out to go jogging in like 2 or 3 people group or person groups. They're seriously handing out fines for, I think, around 400 euros or something, which is fine, just to like kind of spread the word that they're taking it serious too. But looking back at it now, it's quite harsh. But it's I think here, I don't know how it is in the States and Canada at the moment, but here the whole vaccination program is finally starting pretty good, I would say. Like at least now, people in my surrounding, I feel like my family members and friends that work in schools and stuff like that, like system relevant jobs, they call it.
Yeah.
they're getting vaccinated and it's finally happening.
Yeah, whatever we got to do to keep people healthy. I don't know the answer, and I'm going to tread lightly on this subject because I feel like it's pretty different for everybody. I feel like everybody has their own little, um, their phone in front of them, and they're getting their own information from whatever they kind of have chosen to get their information from. So, my only 2 cents would be to, take everything with a grain of salt because, I mean, I don't feel like there are a lot of people that have all the answers. I feel like it's a complicated virus. So the best thing I think people can be doing right now is staying healthy mentally, physically, talking to your family members as much as you can, have open discussions without judgment. And I mean, really just stay on the health. And if you want to take the vaccine, hell yeah. And if you don't, then I don't know. I don't know the answer for that, but I just want everyone to get out of this healthy and unscathed as much as possible. So take care of yourselves, everybody. You all rule. And I think patience is a big thing for right now, too, is like,
I was gonna say time will probably tell, hopefully tell.
totally. But patience with each other, you know what I mean? Some people are like, this is my opinion and I don't want to hear yours, where that's never really been the answer. And we know that as humans, it's always nice to hear the other side. It's the reason why we have like trials, and people get convicted of murders and the blood's on their hands, but they still get a trial because they still want to know all the information. And I
Yeah.
still feel like we're accumulating a lot of that information right now. And unless you're somebody who's doing your research diligently and, openly, I feel like I don't want to hear about what to do from somebody like a Jody, the podcast dude. You know what I mean? No, nobody's on airtime podcast right now. Like, I got to tune into that next episode to make sure I know what to do about these vaccine thing. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm a stunt man.
Yeah, but it's good to hear, as you're saying, like hear different perspectives and be open for different perspectives. Like just take different
Totally.
angles and topics and
Well, any topic since the beginning of time, let's just say like anything. If you're too stubborn to hear the other side, that's not really how you make progress. You know what I mean? You need to hear both sides openly, and then you need people that are educated to make logical decisions based on all of the facts, not just one side.
that's a good way to put it. I agree with that for sure.
All right, off the topic of the complex COVID-19, which both of us are not giving you any advice other than be healthy and be nice to people. You've done some pretty cool things. I feel like other than snowboarding, you have an interest in the arts, I would say. I recently watched a video of yours called Burlo, I believe, or Burlo. That's all shot on Super 8, which me and my friend uh, Jake Kuzik, who you know well, and my other friend Derek Malinsky, and my other friend Chris. Um, our little crew, ever since Jake started first making our films called Gypsy Mob back in the day, we've all kind of loved Super 8. And so when I watched this, I was just like the dude playing the sorry, what, not the trumpet, what am I looking for? The saxophone. I think he was playing. Oh, dude, that clip is so sick. Sick,
Neither
sorry.
the guy
Um,
looks great.
yeah, amazing. So where did this whole Super 8 shooting idea come from for a little skateboard video you made? Like, I don't know. Let's just touch base on this other side of you, the arts, Benny.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I guess I've always had interest in these things. I was always interested in the way things were filmed, especially in snowboarding and skateboarding. I've always been interested in how photos were shot in all the mags I had subscribed growing up, and just interested in that whole side of it instead of just the action part, I'd say. And then me getting into like being in front of the camera a bunch, like filming snowboarding, or I mean, getting filmed while snowboarding, got me introduced to all the different cameras that are out there, people are working with, and just getting an understanding for the materials, I would say, or the equipment. So I think that, I don't know, that's just always been there, and I'm fascinated by how it all works. and fascinated by the look and the different looks cameras give and so on. But so that Super 8 clip you've been talking about is just a little fun side project. I've always wanted to do way more stuff like that, but never really find the time or patience to get into the right headspace even, because there's always so much going on. And I don't know, I just feel like if I want to do these things, I need to be in the right place. I can't just decide. I wake up one morning, it's like, okay, today I'm going to film some Super 8 and make an edit. You know, this is like, I just need to ease into it. So after filming Real Snow that summer, I felt like I needed a break and maybe try out some different stuff. So I moved to Berlin for a couple months in the summer to attend a art class, a photography class at University of the Arts. It sounds pretty fancy, but it's actually not at all. It was just a classic photography course.
Love the transparency. Because it did sound so fancy. I was like, ooh, very prestigious.
It wasn't fancy at all. It's just a normal class. But it was over the course of a few months in the summer. So the cool thing about it was just living away from the snowboarding, skateboarding bubble, or let's say my normal bubble that I live in. So just being exposed to a completely new city and new environment, completely new people that have no idea what I'm doing or what I even am doing, snowboarding or skateboarding. They're not interested in any of that. They're just completely different mindset of people, which was completely cool or nice to be exposed to that and just, I don't know, just have some time. And during those months in Berlin, I brought my Super 8, and then a couple friends came through to visit, and went to go out and skate a bunch. So I was in the right headspace to finally do a project like that. So I just figured
I think that's so sick that you said headspace, because I too love, I used to make little edits with my iPhone and put filters on them. I've never shared them. They're just, but it's the same thing. I'd have to be in this crazy headspace to make it. It would be really stressful to be somebody like Tanner or Harry or Hayden or whoever, Jake Price or Aaron Leyland or any of the filmers in snowboarding, and getting dropped off 10 hard drives that are filled with different people's filming, and then be like, here, make a video. And it needs to be done by this date. Because to elaborate on what you were saying, I feel the same way. You need to be in a good headspace to create a good movie. And your headspace for that was amazing, because it's only about a minute and a half edit. If you want to watch it, it's called BRLO. And if you type in Benny Urban, it'll pop up. And it's such a sick, if you're into Super 8 and film, you'll love this. I thought it was I enjoyed it. I put it on the TV. I watched it for a minute on the phone, and then I put it on the big screen.
Thank you very much, Joey. That makes me really happy.
Yeah, it's like,
actually though.
Yeah, like, because you don't think, you're hoping that people enjoy it as much as you did. You know, and imagine you get that Super 8 film developed. That in itself is a special moment. Are there a lot of places in Germany, or you said you were in Belgium?
That was in Berlin that summer.
To develop the film, though, is it pretty easy to get done, or did you have to send it away to like Japan?
No. There's a few. I mean, Germany has always been pretty on top of film equipment. I mean, Ari, for example, there's a bunch of German producers. Even Kodak has a bunch of locations in Germany. But there is a couple destinations where you can get, or a couple locations where you can get film developed and digitalized for sure. So it wasn't even, actually I dropped the film off on my bike in Berlin, because it wasn't too far from the apartment that I was renting that summer.
As I mentioned, my friend Derek just shot a roll of Super 8 the other day. We built a little hip at the end of the season, and he shot about a minute and a half, one roll. And he had to get it sent from the western side of Canada all the way to the eastern side of Canada. So if you know how big Canada is, that's where you have to get it developed. Like, and we're in Vancouver, which is a pretty big hub for like film and art, kind of artistic. The more I don't really love Vancouver, if I'm being fully honest. I live in Victoria right now, which is on an island kind of away from it, and I'm loving it. It's super sick.
Since
As you
when?
mentioned, like living with a bunch of people and being surrounded by people, none of them snowboard, none of them skateboard, none are in this they're all just different people who's just like, yeah, I work at the bank. Somebody else is like, I work on a sailboat. The other guy's like, I paint, and you're like, this is sick.
Since when are you living there? That sounds super nice.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's kind of like I don't know. It feels like a beach town in Canada. It's the warmest place in Canada, or at least one of them. I moved here about 6 months ago, but I did the entire winter in in and around Whistler to be able to film.
Yeah.
But we got re-locked down, so I moved back to the island to be permanently based in Victoria, just to follow protocols a little bit more respectfully. And But yeah, no, it's a really inspiring environment to be around. I like it a lot, and I like where my headspace is here. If I was ever gonna make a Super 8 film, now is the time. I feel like my headspace is right for it. So you may have inspired me.
There you go. And I mean, you definitely can't force these things, you know, in a way, as you're saying, it's an artistic approach. There's some thoughts behind it, and you just can't make that one day wake up and do it. It's just kind of like it has to be digested and processed, and all of a sudden you feel like it. And I also feel like that's when the magic happens, I guess. And also from what you're saying earlier, when people have to make movies for companies and footage is getting dropped off on their desks, that must be super hard. And I feel like it would be so much easier if that's all your footage and you had put thought into it and then edit it, instead of taking stuff from other people and trying to squeeze it somewhere. That must be really difficult.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, big time. Getting dropped, like when I'm filming something, which is rare, and like I said, I made a few little iPhone edits and never really released them. But when I'm filming something, I have intent that this shot of this truck is maybe going to be placed here, and this blue building might tie in really well to this in-run shot of this guy who's riding in, and you kind of have everything laid out at least roughly in your head. Whereas when you get five filmers who are filming for a snowboard movie, who all have different tastes, who all shoot differently. I mean, yes, at the beginning of the year, you're going to talk about, formatting all your presets on your camera and stuff like that to the same. So all like, everything looks the same, but everybody has a different filming style. And you're probably like, why did that one guy film that thing? But if you don't see their vision for that shot, it's just going to get lost in the thousands of hours of footage that people have filmed throughout the course of the year.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Kind of to touch base and wrap up this segment. For filmers and people in like photography and stuff in or out of the snowboard community, who are some people that you draw some inspiration from?
Mm, a lot of inspiration comes from friends, I have to say, that are around me, that are doing their things in their own way, you know, like in a specific own way. One of them is Alex Tank, for example. I have to say that now that he's snowboarding less and doing more other work, like he's directing a movie for Severin van der Meer, which they've been working on for 2 years already. So he's directing it and filming obviously a bunch for it. So everything he's put out that he has worked on from behind the lens is really impressive and inspiring. Same with Alex Pfeffer, which I get the chance to work a lot with. And then photo wise, there's people like Matt George, which is the Vans Europe staff
Yeah,
photographer.
he's super sick.
Ollie Gagnon. I mean, I've known Ollie G photos since I'm a little kid. Like, I'm not gonna lie, around that same time when I was in Canada, seeing people jumping off roofs and I had no idea what they're doing. I'm pretty sure Ollie was out there with them. And a couple years after, I had subscribed probably every snowboard magazine there is, and just absorbing his photography. And I don't know, he's been a big part of my inspiration for sure, or what I'm into, what I like. And then definitely Tanner, obviously, from all the Vans movies, or even starting way back with Solomon Team Vacations, and Jed's Crazy Loco is one of my favorites out there. So everything he lays hands on.
He has a
is-
distinct style. Him and all, like, I don't know the rest of those names. Obviously, Matt George, I know some of his photos, beautiful. Ollie, definitely one of my favorite snowboard photographers ever. I don't even, sometimes I like his lifestyle photography more than his snowboard. The way he captures people just living their day-to-day life, especially the Vans team, which has so much lifestyle incorporated into their snowboard videos, into their ads and stuff. I think he's one of the best at documenting a tasteful approach to like what snowboarding in the streets looks like and what it feels like. His photography gives off a really good vibe. And yeah, Tanner, yeah, wow, he's got a very good, he's amazing.
Yeah, there's no other way to put it. I mean, it's just very aesthetically pleasing, the music, and there's, I don't know, so much thought that goes into, and you can definitely see and feel that in the final product. So those are just a few names to that the snowboard community would know.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, okay, just because we're on the topic of filming and films and stuff, do you have a favorite movie? Not per se because it's like, oh, it's action packed or because I think it's really funny, but do you have a favorite movie because of the way it's shot or filmed?
Phew.
Or one that you even like, just one? Because I was
Yeah, there is a few that I always thought that I'm quite impressed by, but maybe now because my taste that in that direction changes a lot too. So I would almost have to rewatch it and
yeah.
make sure that I'm still down for,
Yeah,
because
yeah, I like it. You don't want to pitch it if you're not going to be.
people are like, "What? No, that shit's whack," whatever. But, I
Yeah,
think
no worries.
a while ago when I first started to get really interested in films and photography, I think there's one movie that I was super down for, was Drive. Remember
Oh
Drive?
yeah, cool. Yeah,
I
with
just
what's his name? And he's got like the scorpion jacket.
yeah, Gosling, I
Yeah,
guess.
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not. It could have been any actor really. It's more about the light and the vibe of how the stuff is filmed. But fuck, I would have to think more precise
Yeah.
about give you a final answer. There's too much out there.
All right. So thanks again for coming on the show. Um, I
Ooh,
got a little wind up here, a final 4 questions for you.
yeah.
Um, First off, is there anybody you want to thank or any shout outs before we get to the questions? I don't normally do that, but I feel like that's a good way to, you know, maybe you want to take the reins here for a second.
Yeah, thank you, Jody, for getting me on the show, giving me opportunity to talk, and thanks for doing this show in general. It's cool that something like this is out there and it's interesting. Snowboarding needs more like that. Um, then I guess, yeah, thanks Vans and Nitro, Red Bull, my sponsors, to help me out, um, to let me do what I want to do, and my family for all the support, my loving girlfriend, and thank you, snowboarding.
Ruling, man. All right. Question number 1, favorite boarder going right now? Just somebody that you're hyped on.
Mm, too many, too many. Let me think.
Here, just
Uh,
throw out a few, just like 2.
ask me again.
Favorite boarder.
Sibby Springett.
Pardon me?
Sibby Springett.
Oh, sick. Dope. Wow. Heavy. All right. Number 2, one piece of life advice.
Enjoy yourself, take care, and not take everything too serious.
Yeah, it's crazy how many people say that one, and it's like there's a reason, because everybody knows that you don't want to be taking life too serious. You want to enjoy the ride. So if you're
Yeah.
out there and you're stressing, like me,
Yeah, like I get stressed too, and I mean, there's reasons why stuff or like things to everything has to be taken serious in a certain way, but there's a way why this saying has two in it, not too serious, because I get stressed out so easily with just absurd stuff where I'm just telling myself, dude, this is just a fucking first world problem. Like, don't stress out about that. That's just you're in your bubble and you're stressing out about something completely irrelevant. Like, chill. This is nothing to take too serious.
yeah, I feel like a lot of times that's stress. People tend to look at stress in a negative context, where I think the reason why stress has presented itself is because there's an underlying thing that needs to be changed in what it maybe whatever that is, and you need to address that issue. Instead, the reason why it starts to turn into stress is because you need to address that thing. Like, like if your truck's about to break down and you're getting stressed out about, because it's going to break down and you don't have the money and stuff like that to fix the truck that's going to break down, you kind of have to tackle that issue head on. And it's stressful, but you need to deal with it. And if you don't deal with it, it becomes into a bigger piece of stress. So yeah, stress management
Exactly.
is a big thing, everybody, and you need to tackle that head on.
That's maybe a better way to put it. I mean, it has the same message, stress management, or
Yeah, stress management, because you would never achieve anything without like stress. I feel like innovation has started from people being stressed out about certain things. Like, somebody one day was like, I just wish that all of this ice was into little cubes so it can fit in my drink. So I'm going to invent something, which is an ice tray, which was probably stressful to invent, but then they did it and it's phenomenal. And we love ice cubes.
for sure. Or maybe also what's worth it. Like, understand what's worth it to stress out about and what not. Just the judgment of,
Filter.
yeah,
Bingo.
filter the stress acceptance.
Yeah. Because some stress doesn't need to be stressed. Like, oh, I need to pay my Rogers bill. You know what? Or Rogers is a cell phone provider here in Canada. It's like, who
Yeah,
cares?
what's Rogers?
Yeah, exactly. It's also a chocolate place. But, anyways, all right. Question number 3. What will you be doing in the future other than snowboarding, of course?
That's a good question. I'm trying to figure that out in my head as well, slowly but surely. I mean, as of now, I want to keep boarding as long as I can, but slowly start maybe something on the side, or at least, um, yeah, start thinking about it. I will have to. I would love to stay within snowboarding or within the industry, to a certain degree. I would say I could totally imagine working for one of the companies that I am involved with already. Depending on what level, I think I would need to have something maybe a little bit artistic where I can be creative, something in a creative field, I would say, ideally within our industry.
Cool. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to that, because people like you need to stay in the industry, or at least it's nice when some people who have reached, you know, pro level status or have devoted their lives to snowboarding, not even professionally, but even just passionately, those are the people that we need in snowboarding, because they're snowboarders, you know what I mean? Like, the less people that don't snowboard are in snowboarding, the better. You know what I mean? Snowboarding needs to be ran by snowboarders so it stays to benefit snowboarding. And obviously, we want everyone to enjoy snowboarding, but it's kind of like pay your dues. And for someone like you who's paid your dues and done it all, if you work at a brand like Red Bull, Vans, or Nitro, it's just going to be a good look for them, because your taste will get, you know what you're doing. You're not clueless. And it's important that people like you fill those roles eventually so that brands and snowboarding stays what we all want it to be, which is something rad and not just this soulless. Snowboarding doesn't need to become this soulless entity like other things. You know what I mean? It needs to keep its soul some intact. And a piece of snowboarding's soul is people like you who've devoted their lives to snowboarding, or any of the guests that are probably listening to the show who are obsessed with snowboarding. Those are the people who need to be working at the brands.
Yeah, it's cool. And you can kind of see that too with people that are in the industry now, in positions that are having to make decisions and calculating budgets and designing boards and trying to figure out what works and what not. You can kind of tell who has been doing it in the past and has that experience or that school in a way to, you know, bring it back from their experience as like being part of this world or community for a long time, instead of not that a person from the outside would not be just as good or as efficient, but I think that definitely helps. And I think the school that you and me and a lot of other snowboarders that have been doing it professionally to a certain degree, that's a pretty good school, you know, that we've been getting
Totally.
for those potential jobs in the future. So yeah, trying to see what's possible, trying to see what I'm interested in, even have to figure that out. But there's a
Same.
couple things that I could imagine doing. Let's put it that way.
Sick. All right. The last question. Do you believe in aliens, and do you think that they're on Earth?
I believe in aliens, but I don't think they're on Earth.
All right. What if they are?
Yeah, I mean, not saying that they couldn't. I just think probably are some out there. There's some life out there in some sort of way, but I don't think they're on planet Earth.
I'd be so bummed if I was like one of the first humans to like run into the alien, because I think we all have, like, Hollywood has depicted and like showcased what aliens would look like. But when we first encounter one, I'm imagining maybe I'll be the first person. And if I'd be so bummed, I'd be like, oh, it's a black blob with this yellow antenna. This is such a bummer. And and you know, it's an alien. That'd suck.
But what if it's like extra exciting? You're like, holy shit.
Yeah. Like, what if it's just a perfect square? That'd be kind of nice. You know, just a perfect square. It's like, sup? You're like, what?
Stop.
Who knows? Who knows, my man? All right. Thank you again for coming on the show. Big fan. Thanks for all your dedication over the years to filming video parts to inspire. I mean, so many, dude, there's so many clips that the backlit pop out you even just filmed this past year is just such a hot clip, dude. The pop out, so sick, dude. That I love Vans's little raw files that they put out every once in a while, or the Fitty Hop front board fakie. Oh, back to that front board fakie. If you do it good, the front board fakie is so G.
It's a feel good trick for sure. You don't have to force it back if it can feel good sometimes.
All right, dude. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for your kind words and having me on the show. Appreciate it, man.
All right. Peace, dog.
Peace, dog.